Okay. So far, right, in our training, I think for weekday batch and weekend batch, if you, on high level, if you see the topics that we cover, right, let me write at the end. We started for both, okay, weekday batch, weekend batch, we started with the Python core, okay. So we covered like very basics about Python, what is Python, and then what is the need of Python in ETL testing, and then we covered identifiers, print statement, and then data types. When we are covering data types, we covered almost all data types and their methods. Like if you take the string alone, we have covered, I think, 10 to 15 different methods, how we can make use of those methods in our ETL testing. Then we covered integer type, float type, and then other things like all data types. We covered list, tuple, set, frozen set, and then dictionary. And then we jump into operators topic, and then inside the operators we covered almost all the operators that are present in the Python language. Okay, so operators are actually connecting our toolkit to implement any kind of code, so we covered that part as well. And then we jump into control flows. We covered if conditions, and then transfer statements, and then for loop, while loop. Once that is done, we covered functions topic. So when we are covering functions topic, we covered how to create function, what is the need of function in Python, and then what is the different parameters we can pass to the function, and then lambda functions we covered, and then pandas data frames. All right, so core Python is done, and then we jump into data frames topic like pandas. Okay, pandas topic. So pandas is again one more important topic along with the core Python. We covered what is pandas data frame, what are the different methods available in pandas, and what are the functions that can be used in ETL testing, like count function or index function. And there are merge function, concat function, and then group by, right? So we have seen couple of functions that are present in the pandas, and the same we can use in our ETL testing as well. Okay, explicitly I've covered in the weekday batch a SQL DF function where you can write SQL queries on top of your DF directly. So you don't need to do anything extra. If you are already comfortable with the SQL, you can simply write SQL query on top of your pandas data frame that we covered. And then we jump into core ETL concepts, some basics about data lake, data lakehouse, data warehouse, and then what is the need of PySpark in our ETL testing. Without PySpark also we can write the code for ETL testing, ETL automation testing that we have seen. And then we jump into PySpark. We covered PySpark as well. Okay. So I don't know how much person has covered, but if you are someone want to learn more about PySpark, how to read the CSV file, how to read JSON file, how to normalize the JSON file when you have the complex JSON in your project. So I have covered in my self-paced learning as well as in January batch. Go back and watch the PySpark session again if you want to understand more about PySpark. Okay. And then so in between, for weekday batch, I have covered Pandas framework. Okay, Pandas framework, which can be used for migration testing mostly when you have less data for the migration testing, like Pandas custom framework we have covered, just to show you how we can make use of Python plus Pandas in our ETL testing automation. Okay, and then after PySpark, okay, we started PyTest. I think last one week we covered only PyTest, how PyTest works, how we can use these PyTest commands in our ETL testing. And we didn't cover anything about ETL perspective, but I have shown how to uh, create test cases in PyTest framework with very basic examples with Pandas framework, right? Pandas data frames. Okay, but we didn't go on in depth about how to create the framework with the PyTest. Okay, so we just covered what is fixture here, and then how to create the test cases, how to create the test files, how to create the markers, and what is the use of markers, and then fixtures topic we covered, and what is the need of fixtures in PyTest framework. And then we covered hooks concept, and then we covered some commands about PyTest like hyphen v, what is the use of hyphen v, hyphen s, hyphen k. I don't remember whether I covered it or not, but I'll cover as part of the framework sessions. Hyphen k, and then we covered markers, how to apply the markers, markers like custom markers, and then built-in markers. Okay? So skip if, and then parameterization. Okay, and then we covered custom markers that we want to create our own custom markers that we cover. Okay, so far we understand some prerequisite to build the advanced framework, right? So we can build the framework with the help of just Python core language and then Pandas framework. Okay, so we can build Python. So let me just discuss what are the combinations we can build. Okay, so we can build framework with Python plus pandas that we have seen already, right? So we don't need any hi-fi tools or hi-fi libraries to build framework. So if you want to quickly start the framework implementation, you can simply start with the Python plus pandas. Okay, uh, and then so we can build Python plus pandas plus PyTest. Okay, so Python for core, like core topics like for loop, while loop, okay, then if conditions, okay, and then functions creation, okay, and then like pandas to read data from different data sources like files as well as databases, okay, convert into data frame format, and then PyTest to understand or to create the test cases, right? So we can use PyTest. This combination also we can build. Okay? So first framework, this is framework one. I'll write FW1. Okay, and then this is FW2. Okay, FW2, and we can also build Python. So in place of pandas, we can remove pandas completely, and then we can build PySpark here. Okay, so PySpark here. So this session will use some idea, guys, how to build the frameworks. Okay, so and then here we'll consider only PySpark topics like how to like. So in place of pandas read, we use PySpark read. Okay, this is a framework three. Okay, and one more framework like Python plus PySpark plus PyTest. Okay, so this is one more framework where we can make use of Python, PySpark, and PyTest. So this framework can be used for uh, like millions of data validation, millions of record or too many tables validation. When data is huge, we can use PySpark framework. Okay, Python, PySpark, PyTest. Okay, so difference between here the framework 2 and framework 4 is is so in place of pandas read, we use PySpark read. That is the only difference. Only difference. So when we build ETL validations like count, duplicate, null value check, all these things, in place of pandas functions, we use PySpark functions. So that is the only difference, guys. Okay. Okay, only difference. Okay. So and then we can also build framework. So one more framework like Python. Okay. Python plus pandas plus PySpark plus PyTest. Okay. So this is framework 5. So here, so we configure if table size is this much, like we write if conditions, if table size is this much, like more than 10,000 records, we use not 10,000, more than 10 million records or more than 1 million record, we use PySpark framework. So if it is lesser than that, we use like pandas code. Okay. So in the code only we will define if conditions, if record count is this, use PySpark data frame. If not this, use pandas framework, pandas code. Okay, this is one more framework. Okay, so nowadays I've seen companies also using BDD framework. Okay, and then Great Expectation. So this is one more framework, and then Soda DQ. Okay, and then you might have seen PyDQ. Okay, and then I've seen Ice DQ. I think now in the YouTube it is famous now, Ice DQ. Okay. So likewise, there are many frameworks, guys. Okay. So if you look at right, so these all are custom frameworks, open source framework we built on our own. So BDD is also open source. Let me write like this also open source. Great Expectation also open source. Soda DQ, it's few features are open source. If you want to use full-fledged features, you need to purchase the license for this. Okay. So it's a paid one. So PyDQ again, it's open source. IceDQ again, it's enterprise edition of it. Okay. So let me write these two below. Okay. And there are other frameworks also. There are quite popular tools in the market. I've just listed few. Okay. So you can use different frameworks. Okay. So at the end, right, companies are looking for open source frameworks, not for the enterprise tools. Agree, everyone? Guys, agree, everyone?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, yes, Sri.
Right? And again, now companies also looking for readily available frameworks, not the framework which we have to build from the scratch. Okay. So if you want to use readily available framework, these are the frameworks. Okay. Great Expectation, PyDQ. Okay. So you can explore this. You don't need to build your own code to do the ETL automation. You just need to build how to read the data. That's all. And the validation functions already there in the great expectation. Okay? This is mainly for data quality rule check. Data quality rules validation. Okay. So this framework, right? This great expectation framework will not do actual data comparison, your source versus target comparison. What it does is where you do normally with only target table, right? So for example, you want to do null value validation. So for checking null value, you don't need to source data. You can directly apply in the null validation on the target table on specific columns. And you want to do some range validation in the specific column. You can do by using great expectation tool. Okay. So this tool is not for data validation, data quality rule validation. Okay. Great expectation. PyDQ is also same. Okay. These two are DQ rule validation tools. Validation.
Can you please come again related to great expectations? You said that
Yeah.
we
So great
cannot do
expectation can be
reusable.
used for data quality rule validation. So for example, you want to do a range validation. Okay. So on a specific column, you want to do the check range validation, like transaction amount between 10 comma 100. If it is more than 100, if it is lesser than 10, you need to raise alarm to your project team that, okay, in this specific column, I have a rule that this value never be greater than 100, lesser than 10. Okay. Range is one example. And then name should contain only characters. Only characters. Okay. And then lookup validation. Lookup value. Okay. So this specific column should contain only three distinct values, right? Silver, for example, tier column. So tier should be always silver, gold, platinum. If any value other than these three, it should raise alarm. Okay. So get expectation can do like again null value, not null constraint, not null check, and then uniqueness check. Okay. So to do these validations, we don't need source data. Agree? Right? So if you want to do
Yes.
range validation, we don't need source information. We don't need a source at all. So what we do, we read the target data directly and we apply all these rules on those data. Okay. So great expectation is not for data comparison. Like we generally do source minus target, target minus source, right? So great expectation will not do that work. Okay. Great expectation on the target table, you want to perform some kind of validations, you can perform. So these are the few examples. And then city zip code.
Srini,
Yeah.
what about that Tosca? How can we automate that data,
Tosca
Srini?
again is for mainly for the front end automation, not for the back end automation. But I heard there are few libraries or few options there for data testing, but I have never explored it. But I feel Tosca is not for data testing. It is for the UI testing, UI automation testing. Yeah. So when I was, I think 4 years of experience, right? I was working with one company. There I worked on the Tosca tool. So that time we were just giving the flow for the front end automation, not for the back end automation. Again, it's a paid tool, Tosca.
Tosca is like Selenium.
No, it's a UI based. You don't need to write any code. Drag and drop kind of tool, low code tool.
Okay.
Okay.
One question on this great expectation,
Mhm.
Srini. Can we write Python code for this for data comparison, or it's already there inbuilt? Like,
Yeah, you can again mix your custom code with the great expectation. That can be possible. But if you talk alone with the great expectation does not have that feature.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. And also it can handle the data, right, in millions, or like how it is.
Great expectation works on Python pandas and then Polars DB, the Polars data frames, and then DuckDB, but not on the PySpark. I have to explore it on the PySpark part. So I don't remember whether it takes PySpark data frame as input to the great expectation.
Does it work on Snowflake as well?
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. So anything, see, it's just first you need to read data in the pandas, okay, and then pass it on to the great expectation.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, again, PyDQ is again similar. So you can only do these kind of validations like zip code validation, phone number validation, and then any specific your project specific related data quality rule validation. Okay, you cannot compare your source data with the target data. Okay, so that's why these tools are not quite popular, but especially for production CI/CD pipelines, right? So companies started using great expectation tool instead of custom tools or custom frameworks. Okay, so this is for only on the production data testing, the CI/CD pipeline. Okay. Okay. So the reason why I've covered, right? So you might maybe in future once you learn automation, they might have asked you to build the framework. You get confused which framework to use, whether and what are the different frameworks available in the market, right? So always try to focus on if client is explicitly asked you to build or look for enterprise tools, right? Go for the enterprise tool, search in the market which is the popular and then which is the oldest tool and then go with it. If client is not ready to pay for the enterprise editions, then you need to go for the open source one. So I have seen people, right? So we have been experienced in Java Selenium. So they also started implementing Java frameworks as well. That is second story, like Java frameworks as well. But since we are on the data automation, so better to explore on the Python side, not on the Java side. Okay. So my recommendation is like even if you use Databricks, right? Databricks does not support Java, native Java. So if you are using Snowflake, Snowflake does not support Java, right? So better to use Python instead of Java. So if you are someone coming from a Java background and then thought to implement Java framework, maybe Java framework used for mostly for API testing and then front-end automation testing, not for data testing. Okay, so I won't encourage Java as a language for data testing. So Java can be used separately for UI testing or UI automation testing and then API testing, not for the Python automation testing. Okay, so if you build framework, right, Java framework, and if you want to execute this code in the Databricks environment, or you want to run the same code in a Glue job or ADF job, right, it's very difficult. Again, you will face a lot of difficulties in executing the code in the different projects or different ETL tools. Okay? That's why I would recommend everyone start exploring these kind of projects. Yes, clear now? Any questions on this? Any questions, guys? Clear so far?
So Srini, so we got like 5, right? So frameworks. So will you be doing all of them?
No,
I know.
no. We already covered one, and then the fourth combination I'll cover. But you guys can explore. So 1 and 3 will be remain same, just that wherever we are using pandas, we'll use PySpark. And the second one and then fourth one again same. Here we are using pandas data frames, and here we are using PySpark data frames. I would recommend if your client is using cloud tools like ADF and then Glue job or like Databricks environment, right? Better to use PySpark because you get a readily available environment to run your PySpark code. So if the client is not using these advanced tools, and if the client is using Informatica tool, or maybe if they are using some kind of like traditional ETL tools, like Teradata, like DataStage, and then Talent tools, better to go with the Pandas framework because you don't get environment to run a PySpark code. So you need to build your own environment, and then client won't agree for the same. Okay, so when client is already using cloud platforms, better to use PySpark because you get readily available environment. You don't need to do any setup. Okay, example Databricks, right? So Databricks, one click, just select the cluster and then run your code. That's all. You don't need to do any extra steps. So if it is, if you are not using Databricks, if you are not using any cloud tools, it's a traditional ETL project, right? If you want to do automation, then better to go with the Pandas itself. Anyway, in your local system, you will install Pandas and then you run your Python code from the local itself. So if you want to run PySpark code in your local, you need to do the same setup. You need to do whatever setup you have done, but you don't get much advantage, right? So you'll be having one single PC. You run PySpark code, you run Pandas code. You don't see much difference. Okay, but we'll cover this framework, and I already covered this framework. But you can convert this framework to. But if you are from weekend batch, I'll cover maybe one of the framework for you again. Yeah, this framework.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. And yeah, this framework I've seen recently, my client, right? So where I was working 1 year ago, they were actually expecting why you are using PySpark every time. So if very less data, for example, lookup tables or reference tables, right? Or dimension tables, which has very less data, some 1,000, 2,000 records, don't go for the PySpark, use Pandas itself, so that we save some uh, uh, cost for the project. Okay, so that's why we have written a code. Uh, we'll check the count first. If count is this much, okay, and then go for pandas. If count is this much, and then go for PySpark. So in the configuration itself, we define whether it's a small data frame or big data, like small data or big data. Okay, so not after the reading. Okay, it is in the beginning itself. In the config itself, we'll mention it's a small data frame or medium data frame or large data frame. Okay, so that's how we have written one more framework. Okay, so likewise, there are many framework, guys. My experience almost like 11 years, right? I worked on these framework. Maybe based on your experience, you might have seen different framework, different kinds of frameworks. So yeah, if you have any framework which is advanced, then this let me know. We'll try to add that the framework combination here. Okay? But BDD is again one more framework. I've seen many people started asking on the BDD framework. BDD is not for again data testing. BDD is for again front-end testing. Okay, using Python, there is a BDD framework. You can do the front-end automation, not the back-end automation. Okay, so if you are someone looking looking for automation implementation in your project, right? So first thing, see whether you have this Databricks environment or Glue job, like any cloud platform, whether you are using it or not. So if you are not using Databricks environment or the cloud platform, go with the Pandas itself. Okay, Pandas itself. You tell your project team, I do only synthetic data testing, not production like environment data testing. Okay, with the Pandas. So if someone working on the Databricks or cloud platforms now, like Blue Job or ADF or GCP related projects, right? So you can tell your project team, I'm gonna use this combination in your project. So they agree, because if it's readily available environment, you just need to implement the code and then run on the environment. Okay. Okay, yeah, this is all about frameworks, different types, different combinations. But in our classes, I already covered this framework. And if you know this framework, you can implement this framework now. It is just changing pandas code into just pandas, remove pandas code and then add PySpark or wherever it is pandas. And now I'll cover this framework, framework 4. You can remove PySpark and then you can convert into pandas whenever you are rewriting code in pandas framework. Okay. Okay. Clear? Can we move on now?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So with the definition, right? If you go to any framework, they say framework. So the meaning of the framework is we have some packages, we have some Python code, or maybe we have some code written already that does some repetitive work for us in the automated fashion. Okay. So an automation framework in software testing is a structured set of guidelines, tools, best practices, and reusable components designed to support the automation of testing processes. The primary goal of an automation framework is to make process of writing, executing, maintaining automated tests easier and more efficient, thus reducing the manual effort required for the repetitive testing task. Okay? So in our ETL testing, right, whatever we do, that is repetitive testing. So take migration testing, take functional testing, okay, ETL functional testing, take sanity, smoke, okay, your unit test, even if you are someone working on the unit test, right, developer unit test, it's all repetitive work. Okay, so every time you get some table and you take the table and data will be flowing from source to the target with the different layers. You are comparing first table with the first table in the layer 1, and then layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, layer 5. So you are doing functional testing. Okay, and again you get one more table, second table, you do the same testing again. You do one more table, you do the same testing. Only difference is the mapping is the difference, right? Source to target mapping is the difference. In some tables we use joins, in some tables we use union operation, in some table we use some kind of expression transformation, some kind of aggregation transformations. The only difference is the transformation that we use one table to another table. So other than that, you do count, duplicate, null value check. All these are repetitive tasks. All these are repetitive tasks. So if you go to the UI testing, each project, each component will be different. But in the data testing, whatever we do, if you know how to write the SQL query, the remaining are repetitive tasks, right? So every time you go and run your SQL query, your source query, and then target query, and then you get the count and then compare it, and then you get you run some kind of is null operation, is null in the where condition, is unique or in the condition, then minus operation. So only SQL creation is the place where you need to put lot of effort. The remaining are the repetitive task in the ETL testing. Okay, so now we'll see how to automate this, that repetitive task. Okay, so this is the framework. Okay, framework structure. Okay, so this framework can be used for ETL testing. Okay, explicitly for ETL testing. This framework is not designed for UI testing or API testing. Explicitly for UI testing. And if you go to any ETL, any framework, it can be UI automation framework or API automation framework or data testing automation. There is a folder called SRC. Okay, it's a source code folder, or we say package. Okay, so it's a package. Okay, under this package we can create multiple packages. Okay, so in our ETL testing we regularly work on the data validation. That's why I've created data validations package. Under it I've created multiple modules. Okay, multiple modules like count check is one module, duplicate check is another module, null value check, uniqueness check, record only in the source, only in the target, data compare check, schema check. Okay, so if you want to extend this list to some next level, you can add few more validations. Like after schema, you want to do some kind of data quality rules that I've explained as part of the GE, right? So lookup validation, range validation, then reference table validation, then some kind of data testing, right? In the table on specific column, we can build all this DQ validations also here. Let me put DQ also here. Okay. It's a bit difficult here, like DQ check also, DQ checks. Okay, so we can enhance this list to next level, but I didn't put that, it was old document, so let it be. Okay, so and then I need some utilities while reading the data, or maybe I want to build my own reporting. I don't want to use the reporting that is already there in the PyTest framework. I want to build some kind of custom frameworks. That's why I have written utility. Under the utility, we write some code to read data from the source tables, to read data from the target table, to read data from the like Azure environment or GCP environment or S3 environment, right? Like AWS environment. So under the utilities, we write the utility code. Yeah, what is required for your automation testing. So these data validations will actually works to do the data testing. So under the utility, we keep, see, these names are not constant. If you want to change the naming convention, you can change. So if you want to use data validations, your name, you can use your name. But it is okay, whatever the name you want to use it, but I've written in this format, but you can change this name. So data validations. Then utility. So in someone creates utils as a package, someone will use helper functions. Okay. So just the naming convention, you can change the naming convention. So I feel it is ETL testing. I've written ETL related names and then ETL related like module names here. You can see data validations. So these are the data validations that we generally do. So utility here we create some kind of helper functions. Okay, like if you have JSON files, we do the normalize, right? So we actually do explode and then some kind of extra activities we perform when file is a JSON file. Okay, so that's why I've created utility. And again, it is not only one, we can extend this list. Like report library is one. Likewise, we can add multiple files here. Okay, and then so PyTest will take test as a folder. So that's why we have created test folder here. Okay, so under the test folder, so this is the hierarchy you need to follow. So for this, right, test folder. So here you can follow any hierarchy. Okay, but in the test folder, okay, so you need to follow the same hierarchy. Okay, same hierarchy. You cannot change this hierarchy. So for example, this is table one, right? So under the table one, you should have config YML file. You should have query SQL query, your transformation SQL query, and you should have one test file. Okay, and then table two. So here I've just written table one, but you can change this to customer table, orders table, or whatever the policy table, whatever you want to write, you can write it. But I have written just a policy table. Okay, and some projects, right? Not some projects, in many of the projects. So we have one pipeline which loads data to the multiple tables. Okay, what you can do? So in place of table name, you can write your ingestion pipeline name. For example, customer load or transaction load. You can write customer load. Under this, you can write a layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4. Okay, multiple layers. Under each layer, we need to add these kind of folders. Okay, config YML, queries .sql, and test table 1.py. Okay, this is mandatory, guys. Okay, so we cannot build the framework without these three files. Okay, these are the mandatory mandatory files that is required in the automation framework. So why we need config YML file? Because we have to keep our source target information and then validation config information. So this is mandatory file. Then queries. So when we are doing data validation between your source and target, sometimes it's a straight load from file to table or table to table. Sometimes we apply some transformation logic. So any kind of small logic or bigger logic we keep inside this queries.sql file. Okay. So for example, there is a filter, right? When data is moving from source to target, there is a filter. If mandatory column primary key is null, so don't load that record, reject it, right? So in that case, in the SQL query, we write select star from table name, your source table name, where this column is not null. You take only not null record. Okay, not null record. Okay, we keep these files. Okay, and then once table 1 is done, and then the table 2, table 3, table 4. Okay, so this is I've written on the high level table 1, table 2, but we can also create this folder structure on the ingestion pipeline level, like a pipeline level as well, like a workflow or pipeline, whatever you say. Okay? And then there is one file called conftest. We keep all the common fixtures in this conftest file, the common fixtures. So we have discussed, right? Read data is one fixture, read config is another fixture, read SQL query is one fixture. Okay. And here I've kept only 3, but we can also extend this list to many files. So at this moment, config YML, queries SQL, and then test table 1. And some places, if source is a table, if source is a file, CSV file or JSON file or Excel file or whatever the file format, sometimes we may need to provide our own schema as well while reading the data. So we can also provide schema JSON file here. One more here, like schema JSON file, schema.json file. Okay. So likewise, we can extend this list of files that is required to do the table 1 testing, table 2 testing, but we can add these files as well. Okay. Okay. And then a contest file. Here we keep all the common fixtures that is required for our ETL data testing. And then there is a PyTest INI file. This file we keep the custom markers, and then if you want to change the behavior of searching of discovery of your test cases and then test files, right? We keep all this information with this PyTest.ini file. So additionally, we will be having a runner file. Maybe I forgot to cover this runner.py. So this file we will use right now. I've shown, right? We were running PyTest code, PyTest -v-s and then file name, PyTest -v-s and then some kind of markers like -m and then regression, all of it, right? So we should not run the command prompt or command line argument. So we have to keep these commands inside one runner file. Okay. So we run the runner file. Runner file will take care of creating your list of arguments that is passed to PyTest command. Okay. I'll show you this runner file as well in the upcoming session. But yeah, these are the required files, guys. Okay. Okay, so SRC is the main source code where we keep all common functions, common code, where we will use this code inside our table testing. So these are the code. Okay, and under the test we create all the test cases. Okay, so while creating the test cases, you need to provide the prerequisite as well. Okay, that's why we have created config YML file, queries.sql file, and then test table1.py file. Okay, so test is the file. PyTest will understand this test file as a test case file. Under the test case file, you will write test underscore count, test underscore duplicate, null, all of it. Okay. On contest file as common fixtures. Okay. INI file, like PyTest initializer file, where we keep custom marker information and then commands if you want to keep it, and then if you want to change the behavior of the PyTest, we can write under the PyTest INI file. Runner file is simple Python code where we write some code. It actually creates a command line for you. Okay, that is a runner file. Okay, and what are the libraries we use in this framework? We use PyTest framework because PyTest is one library, right? PyTest framework to write, organize, and then execute test cases. PySpark framework to process, validate large scale data. So if you are someone not using PySpark, then you can change PySpark to PyTest. PySpark to Pandas. Okay? And then YAML file, since we are using config files here, YML file, we need one library called YML file that actually take care of reading config YML file. That's why this is one more file. OS to navigate the paths, like OS is a library where you can write your Unix commands, like navigation from one folder to another folder, or navigation list of all the files you want to see. So OS is one important library where you want to play with the folder paths and then files. Okay? So to handle file and file path operations. Docx, we are not using docx, which actually used to create the txt files, but I'm not using this docx. I think It was old written, and we are not using it now. Okay. So additionally, right, I have written PyTest, PySpark, YAML, OS. So we'll also use different kind of libraries. So as and when we cover, so these are the main libraries that we use it. In the interview, they'll ask you what libraries you have used in your automation framework. Okay, you can tell PyTest, PySpark, YAML file. So if you are someone using pandas, mention pandas. Additionally, when you are using pandas to read data from the Snowflake DB, we have to use a Snowflake connector, right? Snowflake. So if you are using Oracle DB, then you need to use CX Oracle package. So if you are connecting to S3 account, you need to use some different library. Okay. So you can mention all those libraries, but at this moment, these are the libraries we use it. But PySpark does not need any extra libraries to read data from different databases. One library will take care of everything. We just need to provide your jar files. That's all. Okay. And this is the explanation what is test file and then how it works. I'll share this file with all of you. You can keep this as a reference. Uh, and then steps to add test files and then configuration. So create a new folder inside the test folder, like new table/module, and then add the test file. Like you can add test underscore new table name. So new is that your table name .py in the folder. Add config YML file in the same folder with the validation specific configurations. I'll show you all these files one by one. Add any necessary SQL queries if required. So mention that SQL query as well. So ensure the contest.py is configured correctly to locate and load the new files. And I've written some explanation. I've explained already theory. So, but I've listed this. Okay. So validation module. So what will contain validation? Contains count check, duplicate check, null value check, all of it. Utility library where we keep some kind of utils required to read data from the source, read data from the target, different tables, different storage account, different tables, different databases. So we write under the utility helper functions, I would say. So test files will contain all test cases. And then configuration files, we keep configuration files to understand what is your source and then target and what is your validation config. Okay. Yeah. So these are the thing. And additionally, I've kept here INFL I have explained already, fixtures I also explained. So PyTest commands, when we are running the code, so already shown, right, when I'm covering PyTest, if someone missed some PyTest sessions, go back and watch the recordings. I also plan to do some kind of PyTest classes uh, in the evening time. Next few days, I think few of you missed, right? So they were asking me, will you be able to cover again one more time? I maybe I'll try to cover again one more time. People who have missed, they can use this opportunity. Okay? So PyTest commands, like when you are running Python, like PyTest code, we write PyTest. If you run just PyTest, it takes all the test cases under the folder from where you are running this command. And if you specify folder name, file name, then it takes only those files and then execute it. And then you can specify -k and you can run test cases with the keyword search, -m with the marker name search, -v run verbosely. And if you want to build like XML report, you can use JUnit XML equal to report.xml. And HTML report, we have seen this. And then max fail, if test case is failing multiple times, you can put max fail. If 3 times fail, then stop it. Otherwise, don't stop it. And if it is by default, it will be 1. If 1 time fail, it stop the execution. Yeah, max fail. I'll cover this one as well. -n number, parallel execution. And you see PDB enable debugging on the test failures. If you want to see detailed logging, right, you can use PDB option. Collect only, show collected tests without running them. So if you want to just run, like if you want to see how many are collected, like what are the test cases are collected, you can use collect only command without specifying your file name or whatever. Okay. And then PyTest capture no, show live. If you don't want to see the live logs, like when I'm running the code, it will show, right, this test case pass, fail, and then 28%, 20%, 40%. So if you don't want to see that log reports live, then you can mention capture equal to no. If you want, you can mention as y. Okay? Yes. Okay? So these are the couple of commands. You can also see first fail, last fail, some other commands, -q. So you can explore it, but these are the commands that we will use in our classes. That's why I listed all these commands here. Okay. Clear, guys? This is the overview of the framework. We didn't start the framework implementation yet, but understand everyone, what are the different folders available in the framework? At least hierarchy, you understand what is the hierarchy of the framework?
So Srini, would you be putting this document in the folder?
Yes, I'll upload after this class.
Okay.
Even PyTest also I have uploaded. One notes I have uploaded. You can refer that notes.
Thank Thank you.
Okay, what about this runner file?
Yeah, runner file is the one where we keep like right now we are keeping this commands, right? I'll show you now 1 second. So we are having these commands, right? So one place you can keep these commands inside your INA file. Agree? So in the INA file, we can use add options, and then there you can put -v -s, right?
Yes.
Additionally, instead of keeping there, you can also create one runner file. So inside the runner file, we can use these add options. I'll show you that file 1 second. Let me close this. Let me close this as well. Not this one. Let me show. Executor file. Okay. So we create this kind of executor runner, whatever the name is different, but both are same. Okay. Runner file or executor file. So we create one main function, and then we add all our commands. Okay. For example, if you see a test folder I want to run, under the test folder there are multiple layers, like multiple folders. Like I want to navigate to the NYC taxi load and then S3 branch layer, and then I want to provide -v -s. So how we write in the command line, right? So like pytest -v -s. So whatever command lines you want to provide from here, you can keep all those commands here. See marker and then keyword search -k. Okay. So this file will take care of creating your pytest command line argument. You don't need to manually pass it like this. Okay. This is one option. The second option, you can also pass it from here also, like add options -v-s and then this. Okay. So these are the default settings for your project, and these are on while running the code, you can provide your options. Okay. So if you are providing from here, this will be overwritten. Okay. So whatever you have written already in the INA file, these commands will be overwritten with this command. Okay. And running from command terminal, okay, and running from this executor file, both are same. Okay. No difference. Okay, clear? So you can also see now live the code also that we have written, right? I've shown framework hierarchy. Now let me show you how it was. So you can see data validations package. So this is a package. You can see the circle symbol, right? So it's a package. Okay. Under this, you will find two packages: data validations package and utility package. So if I expand this, you can see count check, data compare check, duplicate check, generic DQ checks, null value validation, null value check, records only in source, only in target, schema check, uniqueness check. Okay. And if you go to the DQ check, generic DQ checks, we have written name check, some like few validations here, range check, okay, check date format, a date format check. Okay. Likewise, you can add. Okay. So you can enhance this library to so many functions. And then utility. So here we have written general library, and here you will find read schema. Okay, so we have to read schema file, and then read SQL file, then flatten. So if you are someone working with the complex JSON file, we can use this function like flatten function. So this function will convert your semi-structured format to the structured format. Okay, and the read DB library, if you want to read data from databases, so this is the code. Okay, and read file. So here we will write read file code. Okay, like different file like CSV file with schema, without schema, then JSON file. If flatten is required, it will call flatten function, and then type parquet file, avro file. Okay, different file formats we have covered. And actually, these are the helper functions, guys. Okay, so when we have different files, you want to write some different functions to handle them. So that's where we have written. So general library, where we have written some kind of general library that is required to read data from different files that we have kept in the framework. And read DB library will read data from the different databases. Read file read data from the different data file formats. And the report library to create the report library, like kind of custom report, not which is created with the PyTest like JUnit or HTML. And yeah, so and then test folder you can see here. So under this you can see I have created pipeline level. Okay, So assume customer is the pipeline. So under this pipeline, we add multiple layers. You have the so generally data, right? So it will be in the FTP folder from FTP to S3 or ADLS account, like storage account from storage to, if you are using Medallion architecture, bronze, silver, gold. Okay, I've created in the same format. Okay, S3 to bronze, bronze to silver, and then silver to gold. Okay, silver to gold. So in case in the branch layer or any different layer, you have data is flowing to the multiple tables, right, within the layer, then you can keep within the layer also. Okay, so likewise, if I open one folder here, you can see, so S3 to branch, you can see the config file, schema JSON file, and then test customer branch.py, and then transformation SQL. If I open branch to silver, you will find similar folder structure. So config file, test NYC trip silver, transformation.py, transformation.sql. Okay, so if you go to one more folder, you'll find similar files, guys, everywhere. Okay, in all the folders, you'll find the same files, but inside the file, data will be different. So here we are using source target details, right? So here source is database, okay, and it is a transformation Y Python. So we are not using SQL transformation code. I'm using PySpark transformation code. So you see Y and then not SQL. So Y Python. Like if you go to another file, you will find different code here. See here it is Y and then SQL code. Okay, so we have created advanced ETL automation framework, which take your SQL code as a transformation code, Python code as a transformation code. You can use any of the code. Okay, not limiting to only SQL code. Guys, clear so far? Any questions? Any questions?
So Srini, you might have mentioned about the YAML file to the other group, but so why do you need a YAML file? I mean, the specific YAML file. Wow.
So we can use different configs in the frameworks. One of the widely used common config files are JSON files and then YML files. But PyTest recommends us to use YAML file. That's why I'm using YAML file.
Okay.
That is a recommendation from the PyTest. If you want to change, right? If you want to change to JSON file, you can change to JSON file. Not necessarily YML file. It's just that it will change, right? So whenever you are reading config file, so here I'm using for example. Yes, if you're not talking, go on mute, please. Kamlesh, can you go on mute, please? Sorry. Okay. So if you look at here, right? So we will change the code here. Okay. So we have context. So here we are reading data from where is it? Yeah, read config. So here we change this logic to read data from the JSON file. So here we change to JSON. And below also we change like reading data from the JSON file, not the YML file. But recommendation from the PyTest is YAML file, YML file. Okay. So YML file is simpler and then easier to create, guys. Okay, compared to the JSON file.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll also show you. First, we'll create a JSON file and then we'll convert JSON to the like YML file. You'll understand exactly same. We don't use unnecessarily flower brackets inside YML file. That is the only difference.
Okay. So there were no nested data inside it, right?
We can create nested
just
data
like-
as well. We can create nested
Okay.
data as well.
Thank you.
But yeah, we can change. If you want to use CSV, we can use CSV also for config data. Okay, it's up to you which file you want to use, but PyTest recommends use YML file. Even if you go to the CI/CD pipelines, right? So developer generally use YML file for the config files for config data creation.
Yeah, but that's good because I was asking because I see the YML files everywhere. So
Yeah.
Is it like a mandatory or it's I mean, maybe it's a industry standard, I guess. So
Yeah, industry standard. Yeah. And you see one schema JSON file. This file is needed when you are reading data from the CSV file or JSON files or Parquet files. So it is optional file, schema JSON file. Here we keep your source file schema. If your source is a file like CSV file or JSON file. Okay. And I hope Prasanna might have covered this when he's covering like PySpark reading part. Okay. So we can provide our own schema by using struct type, struct field. So that's what this file does for us. Okay. So this is the expected schema basically. Whatever header in your source file or with header, without header, if you have header and if you don't want to use header that is there in the file, so we can create this kind of custom schema file or user defined schema file So it will overwrite whatever schema which is already there in the file, your actual CSV file. Okay? So we will use this. So for example, in the file you have ID column. You don't want to use as ID, you want to use customer ID because developer might have already converted this ID column to customer ID in the target table. So we use this kind of JSON file to pass our own schema to the validation. So when you are doing schema validation, we use this schema JSON file. Okay, so don't worry, all these topics again we'll go in depth, we'll cover one by one when I'm adding this framework in your project. But this is the previous batch code, guys, that we have implemented. Okay, so additionally, you can create different files like I have mentioned right in the yesterday session also. This complete framework setup we can use, we can do by using this code. So if you run this single file, it create all the file for you automatically. You don't need to manually create anything. So this file will take care of everything. And there is again one more file, I guess. It's okay. I think PySpark. This is okay. Okay. And there is INA file. You can also see one more file that is requirement.txt. This one I forgot to explain. Okay. This is the file where we keep all the required packages for your project. Okay. I'll show you how to create this file automatically once we are done with creation of the project, right? We might manually install few libraries in the initial steps. Once we have everything ready, we will create this. There is a command called pip install requirement freeze some command. Okay, we will use that command and then create this file as well. And when you are running in the CI/CD pipeline, right? So we have to start the mission on the fly and then install our libraries and then run our Python code or PySpark code. So we can use this file. So to install your own libraries, we will use this. Okay, this requirement.txt is also important. Okay, and to create wheel file, we use setup.py. Don't worry about this file. Maybe I didn't cover this any of the batch. I'll cover this file as well in the at the end of the framework session. And yeah, this is to create schema. Yeah. And since we are working in the local in the beginning days, so I will use this input files. I don't know where I kept, but we'll keep some input files for local testing the beginning of the days. Once you are comfortable, then we will connect to our ADLS account or S3 account, and then we can do the validation. So once framework is executed, we need to build the reports, right? At this moment, I'm using this folder to create the reports. But in case if you want to load this data back to your table or maybe S3 account, we can do that as well. One moment, guys. Guys, can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I think there is a connectivity issue. Yeah. And you were able to hear me, right? I was explaining this requirement.txt file and then setup.py file. I think just few seconds I was breaking. That's all.
Yeah. Few seconds, just last few seconds.
Okay, yeah. So once we execute framework, we have to have one report folder. It can be in the external storage account or maybe within the project. I won't recommend within the project because maybe if you are loading, maybe if you're running code in your local machine, so it might store data in your local, not to everyone. So that's why it's not recommended to keep it in your local folder like this. We will store these reports to S3 account or ADLS account so that everyone can view the data, whatever we have executed. So for the benefit of everyone, we load this report back to a table or report back to your S3, like any storage account. Okay. And yeah, you'll find some extra folders here, but you don't need to worry. Just main thing is SRC folder and then test folder. And then you have the one requirement.txt file and then this executor file. So these are mandatory files. The remaining are created just do some kind of other automation. Okay. Clear everyone so far?
Yes, friend.
Okay. So I'll give this project creation file to all of you. Just create one project and then run this file. Or maybe we'll do one by one manually. Otherwise, you don't remember this topic, what you have done. Okay. So in case, right, once you are expert in creation of this project, what you can do, you can take this project creation file And if you simply run this file, right, it create framework for you within a minute. Everything will be done automatically. Folder structure, then fold, and then utility, all these things will be created automatically by the code itself. Okay, but I don't want to do for this batch because we create manually so that we'll remember for long time. Okay, can we start now? Can we create project now, everyone?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes, Srini.
Okay. So in the beginning, right? So if you are facing any issues with connection or if you are not able to run the code, hold for some time. I'll take separate sessions for the issues, guys. Okay. I don't want to take in the session. Maybe each one of you might have different issues. So we connect separately. I do Q&A session every day going forward only to discuss your issues. Okay, on the framework side, because you might have come this long way to understand the framework, right? So if you are someone is not getting help now, maybe it is your complete efforts will be wasted. So I'll take every day evening, maybe half an hour, I'll take one Q&A session only to discuss your questions, queries. Okay, next 1-2 weeks till we complete the framework. Okay, okay. So let's start with the framework implementation. Just create one new project. Mine is
Srini, I
Mac.
have one question. Since my system have doesn't capacity, so I'm not installed the PySpark setup. So is it okay? I can create a project in the PyCharm?
Yeah. Create the code, but when we are running the code, we will run in the Databricks itself. I'll show you separately for you how to run the code in the
Oh,
Databricks. Okay?
okay, okay,
But do the setup in the local without PySpark.
okay, okay.
But you get some errors. Don't worry about the error part. Okay. So if you do import PySpark, you might see some red color underscore. It's okay, no problem.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Okay. Let's start now. Create one new project, guys. Everyone. So I'll create a new project. So everyone use the same name. Don't use some different naming convention. I'll use TAF, Test Automation Framework. If you want to use different name, you can use in your project a different name. Yeah, like if you want to change it to your project specific name, like FedEx or whatever you want to use, you can just use it. So I'll use TAF. So April, just mention in the April we are creating, right? Or maybe let me use John, okay? 2026. Okay. Let me use. So don't use any spaces, guys, here. TAF underscore John underscore 2026. If you want to add March also, let me add March also. Okay, March. John March, okay. TAF Test Automation Framework. If someone asks you what is TAF Test Automation Framework, the name of the framework is Test Automation Framework. So if you want to name it as FedEx something, right? Your project specific, FedEx Auto something like this, you can mention. So if you are working for some different client, you can name client name here, but at this moment, I'll just use TAF, okay? TAF Jan March, because we combined two batches, right? January, March 2026, okay? Then create. So while creating the project, just make sure you have this version of the Python. Any version is fine, but it would be better if you have 3.10.10, okay? And then don't choose any of this option. Don't even select create welcome script or any other thing. So let it be as is. So if you want to create, you will create manually all the files. Okay. So if you want to check, no problem, you can check it, but I don't want to check it. Just uncheck it and then create. Okay. New window. New window. Okay. So now project is created. There is one venv file. Okay. This is the virtual environment file. Okay. So whatever you install in this project will go to this venv. Okay. If you go to library now, you'll find some default libraries that are already there in Python. So there's a pip. Pip is a one library in Python. You can see pip, and there is a setup tools. Okay. So you'll find you don't need to worry about this. You can just ignore this venv file, but this file is mandatory in your project. Okay. This is the one thing. So since we are gonna work with the PySpark, okay. So go to your project settings. Go to project settings, and go to your project structure here, and add those two files. Yesterday I've shown, right? So if you're someone not attended yesterday or not done any local setup, I'll do Q&A session on the daily basis from now onwards. We will do the setup in the evening or whenever we connect next time. Okay. So don't worry about it. Okay. Local setup is not done. Don't worry about it. Just listen to me today. So if you already have setup, then follow my instructions. We do the setup now. Okay. So in my mission, I have it somewhere in here. I don't know where I kept it. It's been long time. Yeah, it is here. Okay. So I'll open this Python folder. Let me select Python folder. Okay. And then go to add content again. So open Python folder and then click library and then select Py4j. Okay. So Py4j 0.10.9.7, whatever it is available, just select it. And then click open. Okay. Once it is done, just apply and then click OK. So UI might be a bit different. Don't worry. Mine is very old PyCharm version. You might be using latest version or maybe Windows version, right? You will see some different options, but at the end you will find settings button. If you go to settings, you'll find this window remains same for everyone. Okay. So prior structure, and then go to here, add content to add these two files. Okay. PySpark, Python folder, PySpark, Python library, Py4j folder. These two are added, should be added. Okay. Click OK. So once you added those two, just come here and see these folders are there or not. Okay. They should be there. So once that's done, you can see some V file. You don't need to worry about it. Okay. Okay, let's start implementing the framework now, guys. Okay, so we'll add the folders now, and then we add the code one by one. Okay, so right click, create package. Okay, everyone do this. Create package. Don't create folder anytime now. Okay, use the package. Okay, so package can talk to another package. Folder cannot talk to another folder. Okay, so we have to create package. Okay, what is the difference between package and folder? Both are exactly same. Only difference is when you are importing, right, one folder package and another folder, it will be easy to communicate because there will be init file. But if you create directly, you will face some difficulties in importing. Okay? That's why we create as a package. Okay. Okay. So package name src. So everyone do this step. Okay. So if PySpark is not set it up, you are not aware of how to set up PySpark. Once after project creation, just create src folder. PySpark is maybe we'll cover later. Okay. If you are facing some difficulties in the PySpark. Okay. So once src is done, so under the src we need to create two packages. One is the data validation package, other one is the utils package. Okay. So let me create two. So right click on the src, new, and then Python package, then Python package. Okay. So here name it as data underscore validations. Don't use any spaces, don't use any uppercase formats, guys, here. Okay.
Shiri, first we have to create SRC, right?
src, yeah.
Package.
Let me
and
show
then-
again. So I'll delete it and then show you. Okay. So nothing in my project now. Okay. TAF John 2020, nothing now. So let me right click here.
Say two folders added, right? TF Jan March, again TF2 folder I need to
That is
create,
fine.
right?
That is fine. Yeah. At the end, you will find only one. So if you go to the physical location for this project, right, you will find only one. Okay. Let's see. This is the only file. No need to worry.
Okay.
Maybe it depends on the UI that you guys are using. In my system, it is I'm able to see this format. Maybe in your system, you might see some different view. But don't worry if you see two folders like this. Okay. This is your project. Okay. This is your project. TAF John March 2026. Right click on this, not here. Okay. Not here. Right click on this. Click new and then package src. So if you are facing any issue, let me know. Maybe you can share your screen and you can show it to everyone. Right click the below folder here. Okay. TAF John 2026. If you want me to change the theme, I can change theme also. So let me know if you want me to change. Okay, is it clear now? If white is not visible to you, this is fine, this theme. Is everyone clear? Or which theme is fine for you, like this one or the white one? Yes, respond.
I think white was better, but
White was
maybe
better. Okay, let me go back to the white then. Okay, light. Okay.
So for Shiri, the main.py we can remove it, right?
No, if it is there, let it be. Don't need to worry.
Okay.
Okay. I thought maybe let it start from very basic creation of first file on our own. If it is already created, no problem, let it be. Just one simple Python file, right? No need to worry. Okay. So once SRC is done, yes, everyone do this. Okay. If you are sitting alone, you don't get anything. If you are doing something, you'll learn something. So correct second, that is secondary. First create this folder structure. Okay. So SRC is done. Next right click on the SRC. Now right click on the SRC. So inside the SRC, we need to create two packages. Okay. So package one, data validations. Let me create data validation package. Data underscore validations.
Srini, I'm facing issue with the settings. Can I share my screen?
Like PySpark settings or this product settings?
Yeah, PySpark setting.
PySpark
It
setting,
got
I'll see
deleted.
later. I'll see later. Okay. Because there are many people, right? So without PySpark also you can create this. Okay. So it won't stop you to create this SRC and then data validations. You can still go ahead and create this. Okay. So once data validations is done, again this naming SRC is the fixed naming convention. Under the data validations, if you want to use some DV or some different name, you can still use it. Okay. Okay. SRC data validations is done. Let me now create one more file, one more package here. Okay. Package, that is utility. So you can name it as helper, you can name it as XYZ name, but I would go with the utility package. Utility package. Okay. And then once it is done, under the SRC, data validation is done, utility is done. So we didn't add any file here. Okay. So the file which is created by default when we create packages, that is INIT file, you don't need to worry about this file. Okay. Let it be as is. Okay. Nothing will be there in this file. Okay. Okay. The advantage of this file, right? When you are importing one package function and another package, right? So it is actually communication actually. Okay. So that is the purpose of this INF, but we are not going to write any code in this INIT file. Okay. Let it be as is. It's a dummy file created as part of the package creation. Okay. So once it is done, now go to the project again, TF John March 2026, right click, create package, here test package, tests. Okay. And create one folder. I'll go with the very basic option now. So you can create folder, you can create package. I'll go with the folder now. Okay. So table one. So this is the folder. Okay. So inside the table one, we have to add multiple files. Okay. So multiple files. Let me add those files. So first file is config.yml file. So I'll wait all of you to create this. Okay.
Then
Do it
after test,
along with me.
the table one is a
Yeah,
file,
table one
right?
folder. Yeah, table one folder add.
Okay. It is not a directory, right? It's a
No,
folder.
no, it's a directory, not a package.
Okay, okay.
Directory, create as a directory. Okay.
Srini, here I'm facing some power issues due to some trees are cutting this power department. This
Uh-huh.
uh,
What happened? Any
so
problem?
yeah, I'm facing some power issues. That's the reason the power is going and coming. It is good. So after this, I'll see the recording and I'll follow the same
Okay.
steps.
Srini, you have to add that YML into table one.
Yeah. Add YML file, config.yml file.
How to add?
Right click, new file. Click on file. So just put config. Now add extension.yml here. Okay. So any file other than py file, right? You can create as txt one file only.
Table we have to create. Okay, file.
I click on the table one, right click, and then create as file. So if you want to create Python file, we use Python file, right? Dot extension will be added automatically when you click on Python file. Since YML extension is not there directly here, so just click on file and then add manually .yml config. So .yml, config.yml. Okay. So one more file, let me create one more file, which is JSON file. Again, click on file. This time I'll add schema.json. Okay. Right click again. So I want a transformation query. So SQL file. So create file only. Transformation query dot SQL. use the same naming convention. Don't change. Okay, don't even write uppercase format or init cap format. Right? So I've written all in the lowercase format. If you remember day one session, right? Day one session of my classes, identifiers. Okay, so identifiers, when you are creating any function, any class, any Python file in your code, use always snake case format. Okay, snake case format. So see config transformation query, the transformation underscore. Don't use spaces also. Okay, so one more file, that is a test file. Let me use a test file. Let me get a test file. Test underscore, it's a Python file, test underscore table one. Okay, so I'm writing now generic one. As and when we progress, we write actual table names. Okay, test table one dot py. Okay, so four files
Srini,
are set.
how to add this transformation query SQL file?
So same, right click, new, and then file, write the name, transformation underscore
Okay,
query dot
okay,
SQL. Yeah.
okay.
Okay. So likewise, if you want to create table to write, so just copy this folder. I'll just create one more. Copy the table one completely. Right click on the table one, copy, and then go to the test. Right click and then paste. Then paste. So it will be now table two. Okay, table two. So in the table two, you need to change this name. Okay, test table two. So you just rename this file. Okay, as table. So I'll wait everyone to complete this step. Create two folders, table one, table two. So table one should have these four files, table two should have these four files. Okay? So difference between table one, table two, only this file name, test table one.py, test table two.py. The remaining file names remain same. Okay, so data inside these files we will add a bit later as and when we progress, but at this moment just create this folders, then files.
And how to copy paste this table to, how to copy paste?
Right click on the table one,
Okay,
copy here.
oh,
You can also
okay,
do Control C, and then once you
okay,
copy, go to the test folder, right click on the test folder, right click and then paste.
okay, okay.
So it will ask you to change the name, just edit to 1 to 2, that's all. Yeah, I don't have second monitor today, so if you're saying something, unmute and talk, okay? I don't have second monitor to see your messages. Done, everyone? I'll wait like 2 to 3 minutes. Even if you guys want some break, we'll take some break. I think it's been almost like 1 hour, 10-15 minutes now, right? So we shall we take 10 minutes break and then come back?
Sure.
Yes.
11:45 we'll connect, another 10 minutes from now, 9 minutes, okay?
Yeah, okay.
I'll also okay. And the next file, we have created table one, table two. Let me dissolve this and create one conf test file. Right? That is important. Huh? So let me create one Python file. It is conf test. Okay? .py. So extension will come automatically. Great. Okay? So this file is mandatory in the framework because whatever fixture we create under the conf test.py file. Okay? And this file should be inside your test folder, not outside of the test folder. It should be inside the test folder. Okay, so that's why I clicked on test folder and then new Python file conf_test.py. Conf_test file should be in the lower format. Okay, all characters here should be in the lower format. So these are recommended from the PyTest. We should not use conf upper format or test upper format or different format. Okay, all in the lower format. Okay, so next file, ini file, pytest.ini file. Okay, so create file. Sorry, should not use that name. So right click, file, it's a file, pytest.ini file. Okay, .ini file. Okay.
From the
So
main folder, right? From the main project folder,
from the
right?
TAF bin, yeah, this folder. Right click, new file, and then add pytest.ini file. Okay, so one more file, that runner file. Let me add a runner file also. I'll keep runner only this time. Okay, runner file. Okay, So again, it should be on the project name. Okay, TAF John March 2026 runner file. Okay? It's a runner file. Okay, runner.py file. Okay, so one more file, and then last file I would say at this moment. Later we will add few other files. Okay, so add requirements .txt. So you can use any name, require.txt, requirement.txt, requirements.txt, or your name, my name. But this is the recommendation across different Python projects. Requirements.txt file. Okay, requirement.txt file. Guys, clear? Anyone facing issues while creating these folders, files? Let me know. If you are facing any issues, we'll try to resolve your queries now. Yes, clear? Done? I'll show everything, whatever we have created so far. Okay, yeah. So we have created SRC package and two packages under it, sub packages, data validations utility, no code under it at this moment. Okay, and then test package. Under the test package, we create different folders, table 1, table 2 folder. Under each folder, we have added similar files, okay, config files, config.yml, schema.json, test-table1.py, transformation query.sql, okay, and then same folder. Okay, so these are the constant files. If you want to add some extra files, you can still add it by selecting this folder and then add the new file. Okay, but at this moment, these 4 files are in. Okay.
Srini, how to add this text file? I'm not able.
Same, yeah, right click,
Okay.
new file, add .txt. For example, you want to get .txt.
Okay.
Yes, clear? Done, everyone? Let me dissolve all. Okay. Now, okay. So when we run any code, right, in PyTest, the first place it looks for is test files. Okay, we'll start from there. Okay, so test files. Okay, so we have 2 files here. We try to add simple test here. Okay, so I will add a def test count simple test. Okay? I'm not adding anything other than simply run this. Okay, then I'll put assert true. Okay, and then just cross check whether it is working fine in your system or not. Okay, just for testing purpose, run PyTest. It might fail because we didn't install any package here. It might fail if I run this code. Okay, it says command not found PyTest. Okay, so let me install this PyTest. And while installing, choose the older version. Don't use the latest version. 8.4.2 install. Okay. So once installation is done, we go to the terminal and we run the same command again, PyTest. This time it should not tell us that PyTest is not there. It should run one test case. Okay? Test case. So now, generic discussion is done. Now we try to implement the real-time validations and the real-time testing. Okay. This size is fine, right, everyone? This font size is fine, right? Or you want me to increase?
Yes, I should. No, that is fine. Previous
Okay.
one. Too big.
It's too big. Okay. Okay. So now we understand, right? So to do the count check, what is the prerequisite, guys? We'll talk step by step and then we implement the same. Okay. Step 1. What is the first step? To do the count check, what is the first step? Everyone respond. So correct or wrong, that is secondary. First respond. Okay. What is the step 1 for count check?
Star.
Now to do the data, like to do the count check, what is the prerequisite for us?
The cache should be
You need
available.
a source files.
You have data.
You should have source data, right? Obviously,
Yes.
source data is required. Target data is required. So now come out of the manual testing perspective, talk about program perspective. So to get the source data, what we have to do? Okay, step 1 we understand. Now let me go to step 1.1. Okay. So now think about program perspective. So if you want to get the source data, what we should do?
Uh,
Query from the source database.
Yeah. So we have to read the source data, right? Read source data. Agree? Okay. So reading data, right? While reading the source data, you might have two features, two different data, right? One is file data. So I'll write 1.1.1 this time. So it will be file. It can be source might be file data, or maybe it can be table data also. 1.1.2 database also. Agree? So consider at this moment file and database. In case if you have streaming data, you can also mention streaming data also. So let me cover the streaming data also this time. Okay, 1.1.3 stream data, the Kafka streaming data or any stream data. Okay? Stream data. Once it is done, my bad. Okay. So what is the next step, guys? Source data is read. Next step, what is the next step? Okay. So now, so if I go inside file data, right? What is required to read the source data? Source file data. What is required? To read the
Pandas
source
or
file
data
data, to read the source file data, like consider source file data, what we need exactly to read
we
source.
need to extract the contents in it. I mean,
We need to
data.
get the data, right? To get the
Yeah.
source data, what we need? We need path, right?
Okay.
We need delimiter. If file is CSV file, agree? And separator is done, path is done, and then what else we need? Path is done, delimiter is done. What else we need? So if it is CSV file, we need header info. Agree? Yes, respond. We discussed already all these things, right?
Yes. Schema details.
Schema details we need. Okay, yeah, good. What else we need? What kind of file it is we need, right? So we are talking about CSV, but file can be any type, right? It can be CSV type, it can be Parquet type, it can be any other format. If it is CSV, we need all these data. If it is Parquet, we need some different configs. If it is JSON file, we need some different format. Okay, now let's see only these 5 parameters required. So path is mandatory, and then type is mandatory because based on that path and then type only we can navigate, right? So if it is CSV, then one step. If it is Parquet, another step, right? And then header is needed when your CSV is a file. So header is not needed when file is Parquet file. Okay, we keep all these parameters. Okay. Additionally, what else we need, guys? So assume your file is available in the storage account, external storage account called S3 or ADLS. We need keys, right? Access keys. Access keys needed, right? Without access keys, we can't connect to that storage account, right? If it is local, we can right away access it without any access keys. If it is storage account, GFS, like Google GFS or S3 account or ADLS account, we need access key, right? So we need access key or maybe role. Agree? What else we need, guys, to read? Think in program perspective, okay? Don't think manual perspective. So you can get the manual steps and then convert into programmatic steps. What else we need? That's all. That's all, right? Yes, I'm audible.
Yes.
Question.
Okay. So next, to read data from database, what we need? What details we need?
Some database credentials.
Database gets, yes, correct. What else?
Host name, server name,
Database creates, okay, host, let me write, okay, server name, okay, creates meaning username, password, okay, now host server, what else? Port number, okay, what else?
query.
Yeah, this is important. Query or table, right? query or table we need. So query means you can add some kind of union operation, rank, dense rank, joins, whatever you can write. Tables you can get complete table also. Okay? Complete table or query. What else we need, guys? In programmatic perspective. So people who attend my PySpark session, they should tell me. So while reading database, we need some extra files, jar files we need, right? Jars we need. Okay, so the main thing we need table info, right? Which table you want to read, or the query SQL query, which query you want to execute it. And then database creds, obviously without credentials, we cannot connect to the database. And host server name port is also required. Okay, same thing are required for target data also, agree? So I'm not covering streaming now. Streaming needs some kind of host, similar details. But you will not have query table. We have the topic here. Okay, we'll have the topic here. So it's not database anymore. Stream creds. It mostly it will be servers. Stream server details. Okay, host and all everything will come under it. Okay, and then we need a topic. So main important thing is topic here. Which topic you need to read the streaming part. Okay, okay. So this is on the source side. Okay, step one, under the step one we have multiple steps. Right? And then once we read the source data, we also need the target data also, right? Oh gosh. Let me add all these steps in txt file so that it's easy to discuss. Let me create a readme.md file that is also needed. So one file, create this file also, guys, readme.md file, and I'll put my data here. Okay. So this is step one, and we understand step one has multiple steps. Okay. And then let me add now 2 point. Okay. So once we have source data, okay, the next step is, okay, the next step is 1.2. Okay. So I'm writing just for our understanding. 1.2, read target data. Okay. Read target data. So target might be again database or table or stream also, right? So mostly target will be database or file. So most of the time file or database, not the stream. Okay. So let it be, or maybe one stream is input to another stream. That is also possible. Let it be this part also, like, so 1.2, 1.2 point this. Okay. So now, okay. So while reading source data, okay, so we have many things to take care. Okay. So you can see file data, and in between we have some, this data we keep in the config data. So we need to read the config data. Agree? So basically we need to create some functions to do all these steps, guys. Step one, step two, step three, all these steps. Okay. So while reading database, we need to extract, or we need to read target, like your database credentials and then database details. We should not hard code the details in our code, guys. Okay. So we need to keep everything in the dynamic way. So configurable way. So if someone want to run the same code for different database, different project, they should do minimal changes, not go and open each and every file and then see wherever you have put your credentials as hard coded. Okay. Even for you also, in the after few days, assume database credentials are expired. You need to go back and manually update in each of the file. It takes a lot of time. So we have to write everything in the configurable way. Yeah? One centralized location where all the details. Okay. So now, so we try to focus on this part creation now. So, and then we go to the target part. Okay. Okay. So step one is done. And then you will, once data has read, what is the next step, guys? What is the next step? So data is read, source data is done, target data is done. Both are converted to data frames. Okay? It can be pandas or PySpark. In this case, PySpark data frames. What is the next step? What is the next step?
Get the results.
Validations, right?
Hmm.
So source data frame is there, target data frame is there. We need to compare these two, right? So while doing comparison, we can do like count, duplicate, whatever you want to do, like count, duplicate, null, all the validations that you can perform. I'll just keep few here in the instruction, and then DQ checks if you want to do. Okay. What is the final step? So reporting. Okay. So these are the steps we follow in the manual way as well as automation way. So manual way, we don't do all these steps. Like on ad hoc basis, we provide path. Ad hoc basis, we read data, and then most of the times we hard code it, basically. Okay? We don't do anything programmatic way. We just create one simple script file. In the script file, we provide your source data, target data, and then you read data, and then you do basic validations like count, duplicate. You will just manually run the SQL code and then compare it and then say done. But in automation, we have to create step-by-step process which does everything automated. So less manual intervention, more automated process. Okay. So that's why we created these many folders, these many files. Okay. So now, in the PyTest discussion, when we are discussing PyTest, I have shown the conf file, right? So in the conf file, we have to create the fixtures. So in this case, can we create read data as one fixture, guys? Read data as one fixture. Can we do that?
Yes.
Right. So I'll go here. I'll go to my test one second. Okay. So I'll go here. So I'll add read data fixture here. Read underscore data. Okay. So this fixture is not there at this moment. Let me necessary things. Okay. So read data fixture we applied on the test. Okay. But this read fixture is not there in my code. Okay. So let me go to the conf test file. So fixtures we should create either in the test file or in the conf test file, nowhere else. Okay. Somebody says we have to create fixtures in individual file or maybe some different file SRC. We should not create in the SRC. We should not create in the different test files also. So it is recommended to create in the conf test file. So open the conf test file. So start creating the fixture. Def read data is the fixture name. Okay. On top of it, we have to add, let me import PyTest. Write the code along with me, guys. Import pandas, sorry, PyTest. PyTest. Okay. So first we created test table 1. Under it, I have added this simple line of code. Def test count, parenthesis open close, read data fixture, assert true. No, nothing. Okay. Very simple line of code, 2 lines of code. So if you guys want, let me give this code also to everyone. So let me share this code with all of you. Okay. This is the code. So you might get indentation issues while copy pasting. Just make sure indentation is correct while adding the code. Okay. And then go
This
to
is
the
in table 1, right? This is test
in the
table
table
1,
1.
right?
Yeah, table 1. Yeah. It should be inside the table 1. Let me close all other files. I'll close all other files and then open what is required for us. Okay. So let it be this file. Open this file. So guys, I'll take 20 hours to explain framework. If you are someone not able to understand, I cannot do anything. I'll go step by step, line by line of code. I'll explain every line. Okay, slowly. Okay. So if you don't understand, ask now itself. Don't come back after 5 days. I didn't understand why you created config file, why you created test count. Okay. So even if you did not understand PyTest classes, ask me now. I'll explain. If you don't understand. Okay. Def test count. Read data is a fixture here. Then assert to true. It's a very simple test. Now go to the conf test file. Here we have created, right? So conf test file, open this file, and then now add import PyTest def read data. So since it's a fixture, we have to additionally add read data fixture here. Okay. So @ annotation PyTest, it's a decorator fixture. Okay. So you're going to add the scope also. Okay. Scope, what is the scope we need to give, guys, here? It's a module or session or package. What is the scope of read data fixture?
It's module.
Module, right? Because for table 1, we have one module, test table 1. So to run these test cases, we need to run only once, right? That's why we will give session equal to scope equal to module. If you want to run for test case level, you can run, but it is unnecessary. Okay, we don't need to run every different test case. This read data fixture. Okay, okay, okay. So read data fixture is ready. So now whenever I'm running table1.py, we need this schema, we need schema file, we need config data. Agree? Yes, agree?
Yes.
Okay. So we should create one more fixture. Okay, one more fixture. Okay. So what is the fixture? I'll just go and then I'm not gonna add any other code. I'll just pass it for now. Okay. So now I'll create one more fixture. Def read config fixture. Okay. And it is again fixture. What is the scope for this fixture, guys? What is the scope for this? When we should read this config file? Once per module or for each test case?
Once per module.
Right? We can provide this as a module, right? Okay. Done. Second fixture is ready. What else we need, guys? While reading the
pass is
data,
given.
read config we read. What else we need? So we need to execute this test case, we need SQL query. Agree? Guys,
Yeah.
read SQL, right? We need to read SQL also, right? Is able to follow me?
Yes.
Why this pass is used here?
Which one?
Pass.
Yeah, we are not writing any code here. So if you are simply keeping it, it might throw you error.
Okay.
So to avoid unnecessary errors, we just keep pass for some time. I will add the code, okay, later. Can we create read SQL as also one fixture? PyTest.fixture. Scope equal to SQL. Sorry, scope equal not SQL, sorry. Module. Agree? So what else we need, guys? We also need schema also, right?
Yes.
Let me also add one more fixture. Def read schema fixture, right? So I'll keep this as pass. And then add @PyTest dot fixture. And again, we need to read once per module, okay? Not every time. Okay, let me keep as a module. Read schema. What else we need, guys? So we need Spark session, right? Since we are gonna work with Spark, we need Spark session also, right? Def Spark session pass. Okay. So I'll create this as @PyTest dot fixture. Scope equal to, what is the scope for the Spark session, guys? So we have to run Spark session for module or per execution?
Session.
Per session, right? So we create this as a session level. Okay. Okay. So to read the data, right, we need these many fixtures. I agree, everyone? Guys, to
Yes.
read the data, to read the source data, target data, we need these many fixtures to be executed internally. So can I apply all these fixtures inside this? So while running this read data fixture, I need all these outputs. Agree, everyone?
Srini, where we use this Spark session, Srini?
I'll create, don't worry. So far clear, we just created fixture, we didn't add any code, right? So we will use this fixture while reading the data. Okay. See, these are the fixtures we created for now. We will see, we are not using these fixtures anywhere now. Okay. So only fixture we used is this fixture. Agree? So this fixture we used inside this test case. So if I navigate from here to here, it directly takes me to this page. Guys, clear so far? Any questions? Any simple question is also when asking now. I'll wait for some time.
So since the other fixtures are like a prereq for this, so you want to add inside it?
Yes. So now we will add. So to read the data, first step, right, we need Spark session, right? Because if you want to read Spark data frame, we need spark.read.csv, spark.read.json, spark.read.parquet file, right? So we need Spark session. Let me add Spark session. Okay. So the moment I add, if I click on this Spark session, it takes me to this fixture. Let's see. So I'll give these lines of code to everyone. Keep this code in your code as well. Let me copy this. Keep inside the context file all these lines of code. So let me bear with me. I don't have second monitor, so it will be everything is open to everyone. Okay, so we added. So now to read the data, okay, we need these to be executed first, right? I need SQL query. For example, if I'm reading SQL data, I need config data because config has all the config related information. Okay, so we need first Spark session. That is the main thing, right? Spark session. Then we need read config. I'll add read config. Sorry, not read config we need, and SQL is also needed. Read SQL. Read schema is also needed. And do we need all these things every time, guys? Do we need for read data? Do we need all this every time, or only few needed for every time?
Only a few times because the Spark session is at a session level, right? So it's not at the module level. So sometimes we might not need the Spark session.
But yeah, when you are running read data, right? So it goes to the Spark session. So it anyway execute once per session. Don't need to worry because we set it as scope equal to session. So though for this fixture it is scope equal to module, but this fixture internally runs only once per session, not multiple times. So even if it is called multiple times, it just only runs once. But if you see this read data, right? So for example, your source is file. Do we need read SQL every time? No, right? So if your source is database, do we need if your source is file, do we need SQL? No, right? We don't need. Yes, getting it. Okay, we applied these fixtures, Spark session, read config, read SQL, read schema, but these sometimes may require, sometimes may not require. Just getting it what I am trying to explain. Suppose you are reading data from the database. Read schema is required or not? Not required, right? That's why we will not create these two as a fixtures. We'll create these two as a functions. Okay, so I'll remove now. Now we got it right. So we can create as a fixture, but irrespective of your source data, target data, it every time runs Spark session, read config, read SQL, read schema. But we don't need to run these two every time. So as and when we need it, we will run these two. Agree, everyone? I'll write. Okay, so if you are getting confused, read SQL is needed only when source or target. Okay? When source or target is database. If it is a file, we don't need this read SQL to be executed, right? It's unnecessary for me. Same way, read schema. Okay? Read schema fixture. Read schema fixture is needed only when source or target is file. Okay? So we should not add these two here. I've just shown you we can add everything, but we should not add because so when it finds when you are running read data fixture, it internally sees what fixtures you applied. First, it will go and execute these fixtures, but these fixtures is unnecessary if you run all the time. Okay, irrespective of whether you are using it or not using it, it will still go and execute read SQL, read schema, right? So that's why we won't keep these two as a fixtures. We'll remove those two as a fixture. So I'll remove this as a fixture now. Okay. Now you also update in your code. I gave you the old code. I'll comment these two lines of code. This one I've written for the explanation. Okay. So I've converted this as a function, and read schema is also function. Understood everyone now? When we create, why we created these two as a functions, others why we created as a fixture. Yes, clear everyone? So I'll remove from here also. Don't need this. Yes, everyone clear. Any questions here? So I converted these two as a functions, okay, not as a fixtures now. Read SQL, read schema is not a function because I don't want to run this every time. I want to run this as and when I need it. So that's why I converted as a I converted as a function, not as a fixture. So since it's not a fixture, we should not keep fixtures here. I'll remove these two and then keep these two files, these two functions inside my SRC folder. Inside my SRC folder under the utility. Now let me create one file here. Okay. Helpers. Helper functions. Add these two here. Guys, I'll explain. First, we created one simple test under the test table 1.py. Okay? So def test count read data asset to true. Okay. So to work with the count validation, right? So we need source data, target data. Okay. So we are trying to create one fixture which actually gives us source data from target data file. So I went to conf test file and then created one fixture. Okay. And then to read the data, we need Spark session. We need read config. That's why I've created two fixtures. Spark session fixture here and then read config fixture. Okay. So scope is module for this one, scope equal to session for this one. Okay. So in the interview, they'll ask you what are the fixtures you created, what is the scope of those fixtures. So if you are confident, you can easily explain. If you're not confident, you don't know how to explain, right? You'll fumble it. They'll ask you, they'll surround so many questions on this topic. Okay. So now, since read SQL and then read JSON, schema JSON is not, I didn't create these two as a fixtures, I've created as a functions. I've added those functions, the helper functions here. Okay? Helper functions. These are not fixtures anymore. These are the functions. The reason because these are not required every time to execute, right? That's fine. Fine. Clear, everyone? Any questions here? Anyone lagging to understand this topic? So I am not discussing anything here, PySpark. I'm not writing any complex code here. I'm just talking about PyTest simple features here, guys. So if you have missed PyTest sessions, I'll cover again one more time as a revision session. People who missed, I'll cover for them. But if you are already part of my PyTest sessions, now you got some idea, right? Why we created these are fixtures. Scope equal to module, scope equal to module, scope equal to session.
So you need to create helpers in utility, right? To copy those
helpers under the
schema
utility,
test.
correct. Yeah, copy and then paste them. So now I'll give updated code. This is the okay. We'll do one thing now. So instead of copy pasting, right? I'll put this code in the GitHub. I'll give the link for everyone. I'll upload even in the portal also the link. You can just click on that link. You will see all the code there. So let me push it. But Git topic I'll cover as a separate topic. Don't worry about it. Okay. So at this moment, just take the code. Don't run this part. Okay. I'll share my code with all of you. Let me create this. Let me go and search in my Git. So don't worry about these steps. I'll explain this as a separate 3-4 hour session. Okay. So you'll understand what is Git, what is GitHub, what is the use of this, what are the commands available. This will cover as a separate topic. So today we created TAF. Okay. This is the one. So I'll share this link with all of you and just cross check whether you have access to this account. Just check access, whether you are able to see this project. So if I give the code, maybe you might face some challenges in copy pasting it. You might get some indentation issues. So I gave you the link, GitHub link. Just open this, okay, and you will see this code. I'll also do one thing, maybe I make it as private. I think there's no private. Let me convert into public. Okay, now I think you should be able to see this project. Please check, guys, everyone, and confirm.
Yeah, I
So
can see it.
if you open SRC,
Showing you page not
notice.
found. Showing
Sorry,
page not found. It's showing.
can you refresh it now? Earlier
Yeah,
it was private. Now I think I made it as public. Now everyone should be
yeah, I
able
can
to see the code now.
Yeah.
Yeah, after a few days, I'll convert this as a private again, and then people who are part of my team, they will only see this project, not everyone. That we'll see later. Okay. So yeah, you can see the code now. Under the helpers, we added this code. Okay. So now, so we have to create full fetch code for this Spark session. Before that, we have to fix this Spark session code and then read config code. Okay. So now I'll add the code for the Spark session. Okay. We know Spark equal to, okay, Spark session. So let me import it. My bad. 1 second, guys. First, let me import from, everyone write this code, from PySpark dot SQL import Spark session. Okay. So this line is needed. Don't add unnecessary lines of code, guys. It might lead to some different issues. So then again, it will lose your focus. Just see whatever lines of code we have added, use the same line of code. Don't add any extra lines of code at this moment. So once you are comfortable, you can add any line of code. Okay. Spark session dot builder. And then I'll use app name automation code or TAF. I'll just name it as TAF. Okay. Dot getter create. So return this path. So we can return, or we can also use yield. Agree? So if you use yield, you can also mention here the cleanup code. So I'll go with the yield. Cleanup code we'll add later. Okay. So what you can add in the thing, you use spark.stop. So you are starting Spark session. So I want to stop after your code is executed, right? So that's why we can use yield spark. Yield means return. Okay. Spark.stop means after all test cases executed, as a final cleanup process, whatever code we have written after the yield will get executed. That is spark.stop. Okay. Spark.stop. Okay. So once it is done, okay, so we are anyway using it. Okay. So you get Spark here. So let me just mention here Spark equal to, right, Spark session. Okay. So you don't need to call the function like this. Okay. Just since it's a fixture, okay, Spark, if you call like Spark session, whatever output of Spark session will be stored to the Spark variable. Okay. Then you can write df equal to spark dot read. Then everything is now enabled. So you are able to see it. So don't write any code at this moment. Just keep this part alone. Okay. So next part, read config. Okay. So if you want to add any additional configs for this, you can add it. Okay. At this moment, I've just created simple config of your Spark session. So if you want to add jar files, or if you want to add some kind of access keys, if you want to update the memories info, you can add it for this by adding config. But at this moment, I've created simple config for the Spark session. No extra features yet. Simple one. Spark session.builder .app tf getter create yield spark.stop. Okay. So next part. Now Spark is ready. Okay. So to read the data, we need read config also. Okay. So read config. So here we have to write the code to read data from this config YML file. Yes, clear everyone? So now what I'll do, I'll just write the code here. Okay. So first we need to get the path, right? This path. How to get this path?
Right click.
Right clicking. Right click here. Okay, I'll right click here. Okay, so here you want me to add path, config path. Okay, I've added like this. So framework means we should not do any hardcode things, guys. The same read config you will call for table 2, table 3, table 4, table 5, multiple tables, right? We cannot go and manually update this info every time, right? We should make this as a dynamic. How to make this as a dynamic? How to get this table 1 path in PyTest? I think I covered it, right? There is a fixture, internal fixture. Request fixture, right? So let's add a request fixture. So instead of this now, so what I'll do, that is request dot note dot fs path dot dir name. Clear, everyone? So this will fetch. So if you are running test case table 1, okay, test table 1.py, it will fetch me table 1 folder path. So if you are running table 2, right, test table 2.py, and then it will fetch me table 2 path. So additionally, I'll add config. This will be config folder. Okay, or maybe you can see it test folder or whatever. Okay? And then config path equal to. So now you can use config folder plus and then add slash, okay? And then config YML, config.yml. This again gives you some different weird messages when you're running different operating systems. Okay, so in Mac you use forward slash, okay? In Windows you will use backward slash. In Unix you will use different format. Okay, that's why we have to use some different code. Let me show you that code. We should not, our code should work everywhere. Okay, so we will use this code. So let me copy this complete code. So I'll explain line by line, don't worry. Same code, no change. So okay, so import is the issue. Let me import it. So Python has import library. We don't need to explicitly import. You don't need to explicitly install it. So by default, it will be there. Just to import OS. Okay. Okay. So we can go and manually add like this. Okay. Config underscore path, and then you already have directory path, dir path plus. You can do whatever the slash you want to add, slash like this or forward backward. So depending on the operating system you are using. So in my system, if I take the path, you get different. Let me show you. Okay, I have to add forward slash. In Windows, it will be backward slash. If you check in Windows, it will be backward slash. Okay. So my code should work in different environments, different operating systems. So that's why instead of using this kind of hard code like this, like plus and then use config YML, we should avoid this kind of hard code things in the code. What I'll do, I'll use config path equal to os.path.join, okay, directory path config YML. So what this line of code does is, okay, so you are passing directory path. Okay, directory path is this one, table 1 path. Okay, so depending on the environment, like depending on the operating system you are using, okay, this os.path.join will concat these two as a one complete path. Okay, so if you want to see theoretically, let me show you from the coding perspective here. So I'll run from this. Assume you have directory path like this. Okay, so variable I'll create directory path equal to, I'll take this directory path. Okay. Okay. So now what I'll do, in general, right? Directory path, directory underscore path, plus we use symbol like this, right? Plus config.yml. So you get output which is concat of your directory path, which is this table 1 folder, slash will be added and then config.yml. Oh, we have created dir, so not dir path. dir. Okay, so we got this output. See, we are able to see the complete path. Okay, but this line of code works in my mission today. So if you run the same code in your mission, okay, this may not work. Or if you run this code in the Unix mission, it may not work. Okay, so that's why what we will do, instead of hard coding this kind of code, I'll remove this code, or maybe I'll comment it for your reference. Add os.path.join. So this time what I'll do, os.path. Let me import it. Okay. So I'm not running code from the project, I'm running from the Python console, guys, to give you what happens internally about this code. Okay. os.path.join. This time I'll use dir, comma, what is the file name? config.yml. Okay. So this does exactly same as dir plus / plus config.yml. Okay. Just see the output. Okay. The same output. So that is the advantage of using os.path.join. If you want to use directly like this, you can also use it, but this code may not work in different OS, different operating systems. Okay. So Mac, it will work. If you run the same code in different OS, like Windows OS, it may not work. So you need to go manually and then fix this kind of paths, like from forward to backward. Okay. So that is the importance of os.path.join, directory path, comma. So if you want to add 3 different folders, right, you can do again, for example.
Srini, here I have one dot, Srini. How to identify this one, table 1 and table 2? Because there are two, table 1, table 2 is there, but whatever output is showing now,
That will be
showing for the
taken
table.
care by your request fixture. Right.
Okay.
So if you are reading read data, right, for example, so from the table 2, you will get the table 2 folder path. So if you are running read
Okay.
data from the table 1, you will get the table 1 folder path.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, everyone clear with this point? Everyone clear? Import OS, import Py. Let me take from whatever in here, I'll just take them. Okay, so here it is giving error. Just go ahead and install PyYML package. So everything we are installing manually, because you should understand, guys, what packages we install, what is the need of that package. Okay, PyYAML. Okay, this is the library. PyYAML, YAML in the upper format. Okay? Let's install. Any version is fine. Let's install. Okay, so this one will now fetch you. So if you are running test case from the table 1, you get the table 1 folder path. So if you are running table 2, test case from the table 2, you get the table 2 path, and then you are concatenating with the config.yml, you get this path, config.yml file, config.yml file. And then we have written code with open config path. So this file path will be provided to this. That means this path. Okay, so you'll get this path from the table 1. If you're running from table 2, you'll get table 1 will be replaced with the table 2, table2/config.yml file. Okay, and then R means read mode. So with open config path, which is this path, okay, and this file will be read in the read mode, and config data equal to yaml.saveload. Okay, so this is the code to read data from the config.yml file. Yes, understand everyone? Any questions? So yaml.saveload. So generally we have CSV to read CSV. In Panda side, we have pd.read CSV. To read data from Excel file, we have pd.read Excel file. Right? Same way to read YAML file, the proper manner we use yaml.saveload. yaml.saveload. So F means your pipe, your file. So we gave alias name as F. Okay? Okay? So this the output of this config data, right? Always in the dictionary format. Okay? Always in the dictionary format. Guys, clear everyone? Any questions here? Any questions? If you are clear, we will run this part alone and then show you what kind of path we get, and then how data will be read. Okay, what is the output of this read config fixture? Okay. So let me put some print messages so that you will understand. Print. This is read config fixture. Okay. And let me print directory path. Print dir path as dir underscore path. And then after the converting to config path, let me also print this config path. Okay. So let me print config path. So these print messages to see how data is coming up, guys. Okay. And then once it is read, to print config data. Config data. So while displaying this, let me put some kind of separators so that you will see the output in the proper format. Okay. So these print messages are not actually needed because since you guys are learning first time, and then we have created multiple lines of code, we should know how this read config fixture is getting executed. Okay. So now, so we have test here. Nothing has written in the code. So it's a very simple line of code, test count. So the moment you run the code, it goes to the read data fixture, guys. Right away, read data fixture. So read data fixture has two fixtures. These two will get executed. Read config Spark session. So it will execute first this one, Spark session. Here also we are running simple Spark session. So Spark variable will be created. And then second fixture, okay, read config. It goes and then execute this piece of code. So parallel will execute both, guys. Okay, it will not wait Spark to complete and then read config. So parallelly Spark will get executed, read config will get executed. Okay, so now let me run the command. So I'm inside TF John. Let me go to the test folder to avoid too many confusions. Now let me run PyTest. Okay, -v-s, very basic commands and runs. So it says PySpark is not there. So let me install PySpark also. PySpark, while installing PySpark here, just so we did so many setup, right, for PySpark. Still it is not working because it expects you to install PySpark also. Let me install PySpark. So while installing, don't use the latest version. So we have it 3.4.2, right? Let me install 3.4. Install it. This might take some time. Let it run. Once that is done, let's try. Okay. So yeah, now it is running. One collected. We know what is that one. So it's fine. Okay. You can see now. First is it has executed. This is read config fixture because it is executing first Spark session, this part, but we don't have any print messages. So that's why we are not able to see this. Otherwise, you will also see. Let me also add this print messages. Okay, Spark. Let me not Spark. Print. This is Spark session fixture. Okay. And also add in. Okay. This is end of Spark session. End of Spark session. This stop. Okay. And let me run again. See, this is first it has started there. This is start. Oh, 1 second. This is start Spark session fixture. Okay. So then it went to next line and then it might show you somewhere. This is end of where is the end of? Can see. So this is end of Spark session. Okay. First fixture got executed and then it went to the second fixture. Okay. Second fixture. read config fixture, you can see read config fixture info here. Read config fixture info here. You can see directory path, table 1 path, directory config path. You can see config path is also correct. Okay. So now I'll do one thing. I think few of you might have question why it takes table 1, why not table 2, how it takes table 2, right? Let me add this case to this table 2, and run together both. Okay, together both. So we know fixtures that we have created. Spark session should get executed only once per session, and then read config should execute once per module. Okay, let's see whether it is getting executed in this same manner or not. Okay. You can see here, this is start of Spark session fixture, fine. This is end of Spark session. So this will execute once per session, guys. Okay. If you search entire this code, entire this execution, you don't find Spark session one more time. Okay. Only once it will get executed. And then you can see read config fixture for the table 1. For table 2 also read config fixture. So this is table 2. So it did not execute Spark session again. Okay. It executed only read config fixture. Read config fixture. Okay. And you can see the data also here. So table 2 folder it has fine. Table 2 config path also it has taken properly. Then it has read no data added now. So these configs are now empty. That's why you don't see any data. None. None is the output. Clear now, everyone? So far, any questions? We'll stop it here today. Now, if you have any questions, I'll further discuss. If no questions, maybe we'll stop it here too. So guys, the next session slide will be bit complicated. If you understand now, you'll understand next part. If you don't understand now, you'll face a lot of difficulties in understanding. So if you have any questions, please feel to ask me. I'll explain multiple times, get clarity, and then next session you'll understand. If you don't understand today, next session also you don't understand. You go back and see 100 times same recorded session, you don't understand. Okay. So any question, ask me in the call, ask me in the live session. While doing practice, you do on your own. You do exploration, how it works, why not this way, why not that way. But in the class, if you don't understand navigation, if you don't understand why these files are created, just ask me, I'll explain. I'll explain 100 times. You should ask, that's all.
Srini, if you don't mind, can you just explain the flow? Like, okay, when it first starts, right? Does the conf test file, I mean, does it go to the conf test file or the config file? Is that, I mean, so that we know what exactly, I mean, if there's any problem, right, we know where exactly we need to make the change, because we know we don't know which one comes first, right?
Okay.
So is it like a init file, a config file, conf test file? I think it's a little bit confusing with all these files.
Okay, let me explain it. Okay, so I'll explain manually now, and then we'll take this code and then upload into my intelligent friend ChatGPT, and then I'll ask him to explain. Then you'll understand. Okay, both ways. So the moment I run PyTest, okay, -v-s. Okay. So first it loads the config files. We have two config files in PyTest. What are those guys? In PyTest, what are the config files? One is conf test file. Agree? Other one is the PyTest INA file. These two will be first executed. Okay. And now it checks PyTest -v-s you have provided. Okay. Are there any additional commands written in the PyTest INA add options? Do we have any commands at this moment? No options, right? So it go with the same default options or same options that is present in this command line argument now. PyTest -v-s. Okay. No additional, nothing here. Okay. So it start. First, it will execute conf test file. It initiates the execution of all these fixtures. It just hold, it will not run the code. It will just hold, okay, I have these many fixtures. Metadata of the fixtures will be stored in the beginning. Okay. That is the first step. Okay. So let me write, where is the readme? Okay. So first these two will be executed. Okay. So irrespective of your running test case 1, test case 2, table 1, table 5, table 10. So these two will be first executed. PyTest INA file and then conf test file. Okay. Okay. So then, since we are using PyTest, so we will also look for the PyTest INA file for the test discovery. Right. So we don't have any code here. So by default, PyTest looks for test files. So do you have any test files here? Then discovery.
Yes.
We have test files, right? So how many test files you have? Total 2. Test table 1 and test table 2. Do you have any test cases in this? Yes or no?
Yes.
One test we have, right? Here also we have one test, total 2 test cases. So now by end of this discovery, it will understand, okay, I have 2 files, each file have 1 test case. Let me add 1 test here and 1 test here. So total 2 will be collected. Right? By end of this print message here, this all step, see, collected 2 items. Okay, that means see, config file is PyTest INA file, that file has executed, and then fixtures will also getting executed. Additionally, okay, it looks for any INA config details. If not present, then it will start discovering the test cases. So default option is it looks for test underscore keyword for the test files. For the test cases, test keyword is mandatory in the test in the beginning of the test method. So 2 test cases, 2 collected. Then it starts your actual test case execution. Okay, so it will take the first test case. 1 second. Okay, first test case, and then it looks for the fixtures that you have added for this test. Okay, so you have read data fixture. It first checks read data fixture is available in the context file or not. Since it already have metadata, it knows read data is exist or not. If not there, right away will get error. Okay, boss, you added one fixture. This fixture is not there in my conf test file or in the test file. Okay, we can keep fixture here also. We can keep with the conf test file also. In both the places, fixture is not there. Okay, done. I'll throw you error now. Assume it is there, so it goes to the read data fixture. Let me add this one. Okay, then okay, so then start executing case 1. Okay, test 1 will get executed. While running this, it looks for fixtures. Okay, so fixture is there. What is the fixture we have? Read data fixture. So where it is available in the conf test. Okay, so not in the test file. So it now goes to the conf test file. So from here it navigates to the conf test file. Okay, you have written this fixture. Okay, this fixture has again few more fixtures inside it. Okay, so it will not execute right away this complete fixture code. It will look for a prerequisite. There is a Spark session fixture. There is a read data fixture, read config fixture. It goes and then execute these 2 fixtures. Okay, now let me go here. Okay, read data fixture. So now it looks for applied fixtures inside read data fixture. Let me add proper name. Okay, read data here also read data. Okay, inside read data fixture. So we have fixtures, right? So it now goes to Spark session fixture. Let me add these 2. So there are 2 fixtures here. Spark session fixture, read config fixture. Read config. So one by one it will execute now. So it start executing Spark session fixture. Again it checks. Okay, it checks any fixtures. Do you have any fixture here, guys? Do you have any fixture here for this? Yes or no? Do you have any fixture here? No. Yes or no? No fixture here, right? So it executes the fixture and then returns back to, first it returns, okay, returns Spark variable and hand it over to your read data fixture. Yeah, read data fixture. Okay, so it is returning, right? So this fixture is returning some value, right? That is Spark variable. The Spark variable will be handed over to this guy. Boss, I'm done with my execution. So just take my output. Okay? So whatever you give me code I executed, I'm just passing my output back to you. You take it. Okay? And then there is one more fixture. This will also execute parallelly. Okay? When it comes to this fixture has a request fixture. Okay? So it goes to now one more step on read config fixture. Okay? Read config fixture. Okay? This fixture has internally one more fixture, request fixture. Okay? Request, we know request has many things in it: file name, function name, test case name, and then folder name. All those things will get it. So read config will get executed. Internally, request will be called, and then whatever the outputs we are calling, you will get that output here. Okay? So see request fixture, and then some code we have written to fetch the directory name or file name, whatever. Okay, and then now at the end we are reading YML file. So let me go here. Okay, so here config data from config.yml will be read and pass it to or hand over to our read data fixture. Okay, so now read data has two inputs, right? Two inputs. One is Spark session, other one is the read config. Okay, Spark session is just a variable which contains the PySpark related info. Read config will contain your YAML file info, your config YML info. At this moment, it's nothing, but as and when we progress, we add some lines of details in this. Okay. Okay. So now, okay, and then read data, whatever fixtures we added, those two executed, and then you can also remove this line at this moment. And then we are passing. Okay. You can put here return some value you can pass. Okay. So you can pass this Spark read config, or you can read source data, target data, and then you can pass source info, target info. I'll just pass now static source keyword. Okay. Okay. So once everything is done from the read data fixture, so this output will be passed it on to your test case. Okay, your test case. So since we have hardcore asset equal, that's why your test case is passing. That's how it executes, guys. So it started from here, read data fixture. Inside the read data fixture, there are other fixtures. Those fixtures will get executed. And then all the fixtures, once executed, it returns back to your test case and then start executing your test case. That's how it works. Okay. Once all fixtures executed, then it goes back to test case. Okay. Test case, and then test case will get executed. Whatever test case you have written, those test cases will get executed and then return you the output pass or fail. That's how it works, guys. So these are the steps. And then once test 1 is done, then go to the test 2. So in test 2 also it checks same way. So we have written same code, nothing different. So it goes to the read data. Okay. So and then read data is Spark session, read config. Spark session, it's already executed. But I already have some info about Spark session. I'm not gonna execute again because I am scope equal to session. It will not execute again. Okay, we'll just pass it on whatever information it has already. It will not execute again one more time. Okay? And then read config should have executed because it's module scope equal to module. So it will execute again. So when it is executed, now test case name, it's test case itself change. Folder will change obviously. Then it will read table to config data and then returns back to table to test case. Then asset. Okay. So this is how it works, guys. Now at least got some clarity. Sridhar,
Yeah,
please.
thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So now we'll do, okay. Maybe you might have this question, right? Maybe Srini, you explained, but I don't see this theoretically. It is running somewhere and then giving some output. Okay. So we already put some messages, right? The print messages you can also see here. Okay. So first it has executed INI file. Okay. It will not tell you whether it has executed config file or not, but it will read the config fixtures info and then keep it with him. It will not execute it, but it will keep the information. That's all. And then when it is running, see it has executed test table 1. Okay, so this is Spark session fixture executed, and then you can see read config fixture. So read config fixture, and then your test case pass or fail. And then table 2, when it is executing table, it is not running Spark session again. You can see there is no Spark session messages here. So it has directly went to read config fixture. So config has read and then comes back to your test case. Test case is passed. Okay. So now let me do one thing. So I'll go to this folder. Anytime, right? If you are stuck to understand the code, go here. There are many things. I'll just copy this. 1 second, wait. Don't worry, I'll show you. Maybe you can do these steps later. Folder. Just keep framework, okay? I'll paste all the files here, okay? I don't want to corrupt my code, that's why I've created a different altogether. Okay. So everything has come here, and then I'll remove unnecessary things here. Let me create for this zip file. Okay, so archive is the file now. Let me name it as FW John March. Okay, you don't need to do these steps. I just wanted to show you. So if someone has created framework, if you want to understand the complete framework line by line of code, right? If you don't know anything about framework, you can do one thing. You can create zip file of it and then upload it to your intelligent friend here. Okay. So go here, ChatGPT. Your choice. I would recommend use ChatGPT because it's open source. But in case if you want to use some different tools, you can use different tools. 1 second. Let me upload this, okay? So I'll upload zip file this time. So I've added in my documents, FW. Here I've created one zip file, okay? So take this. Act as export and ETL automation testing. Understand, uploaded zip file, just framework created for ETL testing, and I am running PyTest -v-s, and I try to understand the framework, but unable to get it. Can you read complete code and explain me step by step how code will get executed. Let's see. You can write better prompt, but on the fly I could write this much for at this moment, but we can write some different things. Yeah. So now what it does is it opens this complete framework and reads each and every line that we have written, every folder, every file, and then explains you what happens if I run PyTest -v-s. It will tell you these two files will be collected, and then before that INI file will get executed, and then conquest will get executed. Okay, so I've gone through your entire zip file, the framework. Good news, it's actually simple but slightly misleading in structure, which is why you are not able to follow the execution. Let me go through step by step. Okay, so it has this. Your framework is organized like this. Yeah, this is a data-driven ETL automation framework, table-wise execution. So now it says what happens when you run PyTest -v-s. Let's trace execution exactly. So PyTest starts, see, reads PyTest INI file. PyTest does reads INI file, starts test discovery, looks for test folder, finds conf test file, test table 1, test table 2. So the step to conf.py is loaded, which is very, very important. You can see. Okay. So this is your framework backbone. It defines 3 fixtures. Fixture 1 is Spark session scope equal to session scope, and it will tell you runs only once per entire test run. So this is, and then there is print messages. That's why you see the print messages. Then after all tests, you see stop button. Okay, and the read config. So module scope, key logic. So directory path. It will also explain what happens. See, directory path is this, directory path is this. Okay. So once you will see this is read fixture, directory path, all these things. Then it goes to the fixture 3 read data. Then depends Spark session read config. So execution order Spark session once. So it will skip this part second time when it is running second test case. Okay. So and I put return source. So that's why return source, and then test execution starts. Okay, table 1, table 2. Okay. Okay. So we can see the messages of how it is getting executed. So there might be steps here and there, front and back, but at the end, it does the same thing what I have explained. Okay. So what your framework is trying to design is, this design is actually good. It's aiming for table-driven ETL testing. So each table equal to one table test case contains config YML file, schema JSON, all these things. Then why you are confused, read data returns source, because we didn't write complete code, right? Source, no Spark read. We didn't write any Spark read, no validation, no SQL, no nothing. So that's why it is giving some info. Okay, don't worry about it. But it is explaining how line by line, step by step, it will execute. So if you are now confused, maybe in specific function, now you can tell, can you explain in detail about read config fixture, read config fixture. Okay. So now it will explain in detail about read config alone, only one fixture. Okay, what line you have written, everything to it. So the actual code is simplified. This is the code, and yeah, you can see. Let's summarize. Let's assume pytest-v is run, test file picked. Yeah, you can see this is the key design. Okay, because I am your framework, because I know it says, because now your framework knows I am running test inside table 1 folder. So config path equal to os.path.join directory path config YML file. You get this path. So result is this. So load YML file. You can also explain this code also. If you want to understand more what is safe load, and then it will explain for you. You don't need to wait for me to explain, it will explain automatically for you. So after loading, maybe if you have any data, it will show you this data in the dictionary format. Okay. Now got some basic idea at least now, flow from my
Yes.
explanation and ChatGPT explanation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So yeah, I think I'm done for today. If no questions, we'll stop it here today. We'll continue tomorrow morning at the same time. Tomorrow we'll start a little early, 10 a.m. So today I was traveling, so I couldn't take 10 exactly. So I mentioned 10:15. Tomorrow we'll start at 10. Okay. So if we can spend more time, right, we can discuss more topics on one single day. So if we give some breaks, right, maybe we'll miss the logic flow. So I'm even okay tomorrow at 9:39, and then finish at 12:30. We don't need to wait till 1 p.m. our time. Okay. So you decide it and let me know. Maybe I'll start from 9:30 if everyone is okay.
Yeah, 9 is better. I think.
Yeah, 9 is also fine for me. Yeah. Okay, let me stop this recording.